Welcome back to Picture Mavericks. Today we are covering Cars 3, the 2017 Pixar film distributed by Walt Disney Pictures, directed by Brian Fee. This was Brian Fee's feature film directorial debut. The film was produced by Pixar Animation Studios and had a production budget of around $175 million. It is the third film in the Cars franchise following the original Cars in 2006 and Cars 2 in 2011. Now I want to say something before we get into the story. Cars 3 is not what the trailers made it look like. The trailers sold it as a dark and intense comeback story. And while that element is there, the film turns out to be something much quieter and much more meaningful than that. Let us get into it. My favorite character in this film is Cruz Ramirez, voiced by Cristela Alonso. Cruz is Lightning McQueen's trainer assigned to him by his new sponsor. And on the surface, she seems like just an enthusiastic support character. Someone there to help the main character get back on his feet. But as the film goes on, you realize Cruz has her own story, her own dream, her own pain. And the film takes its time before it shows you that. Cruz grew up wanting to be a racer. Not a trainer. A racer. She dreamed about it. She prepared for it. And when she finally got the chance to be at a real racing competition, she looked at all those other cars, the size of them, the speed of them, and she drove away before the race even started. She told herself she was not built for it, and she never went back. She became a trainer instead, helping other cars chase the dream she walked away from. What makes Cruz work as a character is that her arc is not loud. It builds slowly and quietly until the final race where everything she has been carrying finally comes out. And when it does, it lands. She is the real heart of this film. Now, before I get into the full story, I want to talk about my favorite scene in this entire film. And that is the Doc Hudson flashback and story reveal. Doc Hudson does not appear in Cars 3 in the present. He passed away between Cars 1 and Cars 3. But Lightning carries him through the entire film. Every decision Lightning makes is connected to Doc in some way. The scene that got me is when Lightning and Cruz find Smokey, Doc's old crew chief, in Thomasville. And Smokey shows Lightning old footage of Doc racing. Real footage from Doc's prime. And as Lightning watches it, you see something shift in him. But what really hit me was what Smokey tells Lightning about Doc after his crash ended his career. Everyone assumed Doc was bitter and finished. And for a while he was. But Smokey reveals that in his final years, after Lightning came into his life, Doc started sending Smokey race updates. Letters talking about Lightning. His times, his progress, his personality. Doc was proud. He found a new purpose in Lightning without Lightning ever knowing it. Doc Hudson never told Lightning any of this while he was alive. That detail is small. It is not a big dramatic moment, but it reframes everything you understood about their relationship from the first film. Doc was not just a grumpy mentor who eventually warmed up. He genuinely saw Lightning as the thing that gave his later years meaning. That scene hit harder than anything else in this movie for me. Now let us get into the full story of Cars 3. The film opens with Lightning McQueen at the top of his career. He is racing well, he is confident, and he is enjoying himself on the track with his longtime rivals. Chick Hicks is gone from the picture, and the racing world feels familiar and comfortable to Lightning. Then something changes. A new generation of racers arrives on the circuit, led by Jackson Storm, voiced by Armie Hammer. Storm is a next-generation race car. Sleek, aerodynamic, technologically advanced, and fast in a way that the older generation of racers simply cannot match. Storm is not just fast. He is designed to be fast, built with new technology and trained using simulators and data. One by one, the older racers that Lightning has competed with for years start getting replaced, pushed out, retired, and Lightning watches it happen around him and tells himself he is different. He can keep up. Then comes the Rust-eze 500. Lightning is in the race. He is losing ground to Storm. And instead of accepting it, he pushes harder than he should. He tries to force something that is not there. And then he crashes. A devastating high-speed crash that takes him out of the race and puts him on the sideline for months. The crash is brutal for an animated film. It is not played for laughs at all. It is meant to shake you. And it does. During his recovery, Rust-eze, the sponsor Lightning has had since the very beginning, gets sold to a new owner. A wealthy businessman named Sterling, voiced by Nathan Fillion. Sterling has a whole new facility, new technology, new trainers. And he assigns Cruz Ramirez to work with Lightning. Sterling's plan is straightforward. He wants Lightning to train, get back to racing form, and compete in the Florida 500, the big race coming up on the calendar. But Sterling also makes something very clear to Lightning early on. If Lightning cannot prove he is competitive in that race, Sterling wants him to retire and become a brand ambassador instead. Selling merchandise, doing appearances, done with racing. That is the weight Lightning carries through the entire middle of the film. Lightning starts training with Cruz, and immediately there is friction. Cruz is working with data and simulators and structured programs. Lightning wants to race on real tracks, in real conditions, the way Doc taught him. The two of them are pulling in different directions. Lightning convinces Cruz to take him to a real beach to train. And on the beach we start to see Cruz open up a little. She is quick. She is sharper than she lets on. But she keeps pulling back whenever Lightning pushes her to actually race rather than just train. Lightning then decides he wants to go to Thomasville, the old dirt track where Doc Hudson learned to race, where Doc became who he was before the crash ended his career. And this is where the film opens up emotionally. They find Smokey, Doc's old crew chief, a wise and weathered old car who knew Doc better than anyone. Smokey is not impressed by Lightning at first, but he agrees to help. And then comes the scene I already talked about, the footage of document, the letters, the revelation that Doc spent his final years quietly proud of Lightning in a way Lightning never got to hear while Doc was alive. Smokey also tells Lightning something important about Doc's crash and forced retirement. Doc lost his identity when racing was taken from him. He did not know who he was without the track. And Smokey does not want Lightning to end up the same way. But then Smokey says something that reframes the whole film. He tells Lightning that what Doc found at the end of his life, what actually gave him peace, was not getting back on the track himself. It was Lightning. It was passing something on. That idea plants itself in Lightning's mind. And it quietly starts to change how he sees everything in front of him. Lightning trains at Thomasville with Smokey and some of Doc's old racing friends. He learns to race on dirt. He learns to use the slide that Doc was known for. And for the first time in the film, he starts to feel like himself again. Cruz trains alongside him. And during one of their sessions, Lightning finally pushes her hard enough that something comes out of her. She is fast. Genuinely fast. Not trainer fast. Racer fast. And for a moment Lightning sees it clearly even if Cruz cannot see it in herself yet. Then comes the Florida 500. Lightning arrives ready to race. And early in the race, he is holding his own. He is not dominating, but he is there, competitive, present. Then a moment happens on the track where Lightning makes a decision. He calls Cruz in. He brings her into the race as his replacement. She comes in wearing his number 95, and Lightning becomes her crew chief for the rest of the race, talking her through it from the pit, the way Doc once talked him through things. Cruz does not know how to handle the other racers at first. They are bigger, faster, more experienced. Jackson Storm tries to get in her head. He tells her she does not belong there, that she is just a trainer. And Cruz remembers Doc. She uses the slide, the dirt track move that Doc was famous for, that Lightning taught her at Thomasville. And she uses it to take the lead from Storm and win the Florida 500. She wins. After the race, Sterling shows up ready to have Lightning become his brand ambassador since he did not technically finish the race himself. Lightning turns it down completely. He walks away from Sterling's deal. And in the final scene, Lightning has come back to Radiator Springs. He has repainted himself. His new look is a tribute to Doc Hudson, the same primer gray, and he has taken on a new role. He is going to be Cruz's crew chief, her mentor going forward. The student becomes the teacher, and Lightning finally understands what Doc felt. Cars 3 is a genuinely good film that a lot of people dismissed because of how the trailers presented it. The film is really about what you do when time starts moving faster than you can keep up with. It is about legacy, about knowing when to hold on and when to let go, and about finding meaning in passing something forward rather than holding on to it yourself. Cruz Ramirez carries the emotional weight of this film beautifully. Her arc from cautious trainer to first-time racer to champion is the real story being told here. The Doc Hudson thread running through the entire film gives it a depth that neither of the first two Cars films had. That reveal about the letters, about Doc quietly being proud of Lightning in his final years, that is the kind of writing that sticks with you after the credits roll. It is not a perfect film. The middle section loses some momentum in places, but the emotional landing it sticks at the end earns it a lot of goodwill. If you skipped Cars 3 because you thought it was just another animated sequel, go back and give it a proper watch. You might be surprised by what you find. That is Picture Mavericks for today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe because there is a lot more coming your way. Drop in the comments below and tell me what film you want covered next. Until then, keep watching, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next one.